Welcome into Hockey Sense, everybody. Great to have you along with us for our Friday tradition. Big show for you today. We are in the conference final right now. Florida wins again last night over Carolina. I don't know what Carolina is. What are they supposed to be? What do we hear about them every single year? And then they get to this point in the season, and they just kind of turn into who we thought they are all along. Vanilla, boring. I asked on my Twitter account to describe the Carolina Hurricanes, and the responses have been accurate, hilarious, and 100% on point. Based off what we've seen from Carolina throughout the first couple of games of this series. And I know Florida's a different animal. I said that last round about Toronto, when everyone's going crazy about the Toronto Maple Leafs, there's something to be said about taking the Florida Panthers to Game 7. They are the best team in the NHL. And, there's no indication that they aren't in position to create a dynasty, unlike anything we've seen in the NHL since, I guess, the Chicago Blackhawks. I guess you could say the Tampa Bay Lightning, although Tampa Bay, and I know it's not the popular opinion, but I just can't put Tampa in the same conversation as I do Chicago, even LA. I mean, the way they won the Stanley Cups, it was just so crazy in terms of the time we were living in. I'm not trying to disparage the Lightning or their fans, because I feel like if it was in a traditional season, they probably would have ended up on top anyway. But when you win a Stanley Cup in the bubble, that's not real hockey. When you come back and you win a 56-game season Stanley Cup and you're playing against an Eastern Conference opponent in the Stanley Cup final, that is not real playoff hockey either. But again, in the record book, it'll show that the Tampa Bay Lightning went to the Stanley Cup final 3 years in a row, and they won a couple. But it's not the same as these others, and it's not the same as what the Florida Panthers are doing right now. They are so good. Their power play is incredible. Their defense is suffering. Their goaltending's elite. They've got superstar power. Now, we'll see what's going on with Sam Reinhart. If he's out, that could certainly change things. Maybe not as much for this series, but certainly as they get into the Stanley Cup final and face either Dallas or Edmonton. They play Game 2 tonight. I really like Dallas throughout the entire playoffs. Edmonton as well. Edmonton got off to a slow start against LA, if you remember. Then they've been on fire really ever since. But I feel like this Dallas team is just a completely different animal. And I think that would be the best matchup in the Stanley Cup final, would be Dallas taking on Florida. And Florida hasn't seen a team like Dallas here in the Stanley Cup playoffs this year. They're a completely different animal. But I like this Dallas team, man. They've got it all too, right? From the goalie on out. They've got star power up front. They've got veteran leadership. They've got guys who have defined roles. They have experienced star players who have never won, who are hungry. There's something about Dallas that I would just love to see the Dallas Stars win the Cup this year. Would you like to see Florida win back-to-back Cups? Sure. I love the Panthers, and I'm a big fan of what Paul Maurice has done there. Pete DeBoer is another guy. You look at him as the head coach of Dallas, these guys who just have consistent greatness and consistent winning throughout the course of their career, and they haven't won. I just pull for those guys, much like I did for Paul Maurice last season. I pull for Pete DeBoer here this season, and I like this Dallas team. Blues fans may not like to hear that, but they're fun to watch, man. They've got a little bit of everything. Youth, experience, veterans, star power, great D, mobile D, physical D, big D, in the big D, great fans, great home ice advantage, great atmosphere, and an unreal goaltender who should be the number one goaltender for Team USA in the Olympics next year. How about Canada, by the way, losing to Denmark? Oh, my God. People blaming Kyle Dubas. Figure it out, Canada. It's the World Championships, I know. Everyone's got to understand they're not putting forth their full effort. They're not over there just focusing on hockey. There's so much distraction in terms of just going over there and just having a good time. And I think when you face a team like Denmark in the quarterfinals, you just assume you're just going to roll. And once you decide to turn it on and flip a switch, is too late. And that's probably what happened for Canada, who's out now. Team USA plays Sweden in the semifinals today. So looking forward to Team USA and see what happens there. But when you have Crosby and Ryan O'Reilly and Braden Shannon, Nathan McKinnon and Marc-Andre Fleury, Jordan Bennington, I mean, just go on down the line. Macklin Celebrini. I just felt like Canada would win the World Championships. But again, nobody seems to care about the World Championships. So we won't spend too much time on it. I'll ask Jamal Mayers about it. I'll ask Pronger about it. Chris Pronger is joining us on this edition of Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. Looking forward to the conversation with Prong. So much to get into with him. But we'll ask them about Canada's approach at the World Championships. You do know that Hockey Sense each and every week is brought to you by our friends over there at First Community. Nobody does banking better than First Community. Check out all the branches, including the newest one in Sunset Hills. You can get home loans, auto loans, whatever it is you're looking for, business loans, small business loans. If you want to create savings accounts for your holiday shopping next year, for college expenses and tuition, you can do all of that with First Community. Just ask them about it. They got home equity loan promos going on right now. The Vacation Club account, I love that because you know what? You can borrow money and then pay it back. So you can go enjoy your fun in the sun today and then pay it back at a later date. Ask about the Vacation Club account. They'll literally give you money for your vacation. So you can go play in the sand today and then you pay it off over a period of time. I love the Little Blues program. My son got involved with Little Blues. That's how he started. Just made the AAA Blues this season, first year that they're eligible for his age to play for the AAA Blues. So big shout out to the 2016 AAA Blues. And but that's how he got to start, Little Blues. It's the best program going. You get, I think, 6 ice times, great coaching, so much fun. They give you all your equipment, including your skates, and that's how you learn to play the game. That's how you fall in love with the game, through Little Blues. Go to firstcommunity.com, check it out. Great way to get started in hockey. Ages 4 to 9 who have not participated in organized youth hockey before. So if you have participated in organized hockey, you're not eligible. But if you haven't and you want to get started, sign up. They ship all the equipment to your front door. No better program than Little Blues, brought to you by First Community. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Check out all the great deals going on there. They got a great app, by the way. Download the app today. The Wallace family just flat out getting it done. And they are amazing people and taking St. Louis to the next level, one dirt cheap at a time. Cheap, fun, your one-stop party shop. Don't sleep on the party supplies. They've got so many different decorations, paper goods, all that type of stuff you can get from Dirt Cheap. You can get curbside pickup, so you don't even have to get out of your car. In fact, many of the locations have a drive-through. So you don't have to get out of your car for that either. Just go through the drive-thru. Download the app, find the location nearest you. Best beer, wine, liquor, booze. They got cigars. They've got everything over there at Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. Father's Day around the corner. Do some shopping over there at Dirt Cheap. Blue Note Roofing, my man David Novak. I'm going to get him here in studio maybe next week. 314-920-5713. That's the best way to reach David. Hope everyone is safe from the storms over the course of the last week. Just craziness here in St. Louis to see these type of tornadoes and this level of devastation here in our community. But the silver lining is there are people like David Novak who are standing by, ready to take your call, and are here to help you get through a very difficult time. So if you have damage to your roof, anything that you're dealing with from the storm damage, give him a call today. Blue Note Roofing. Look for the big yellow truck. You find the blue notes on the side of the truck. You can't miss it. Again, 314-920-5713. He is the best in the business. Loves pucks. He'll talk hockey with you all day long. David Novak. Lordo's Diamonds, taking St. Louis to the next level with one diamond at a time, man. They are incredible. Mike and Jimmy Lordo. You kidding me? Best customer service you'll find anywhere. Pat, the whole crew over there. Cindy, they are waiting to service you. And it doesn't matter if you have a $100,000 budget or a $100 budget. They're going to treat you the same way. So stop on in. Right next to Truffles in the heart of Ladue. You could always call them, 314-432-8008. You can walk on in, though. If you're looking to pop the question this summer, no better place to get your engagement ring Even if you're planning to do it around the holidays, now is the time to start looking and get that ring purchased from Lordo's Diamonds, lordosdiamonds.com. All right, let's step aside. We've got lots to come. Chris Pronger joining us on this edition of Hockey Sense, brought to you by First Community. Looking forward to that. Jamal Mayers later on in the show as well. So we're just getting started on this edition of Hockey Sense. Don't go anywhere. All right, Jamal Mayers here with us. Always look forward to talking to Jammer. Listen, as a guy who played in the World Championships before, can you just help me understand the mentality of players when they go over there? How serious do they take it? Is this a fun time? I mean, players get eliminated from the playoffs and they go over, or they don't make the playoffs and they go over. You have young kids trying to make an impression to, make a case for the Olympic team moving forward. Young kids trying to make an impression for their draft status. Everyone's got different levels of motivation. You've got one of the greatest players ever participating in Sidney Crosby. You've got one of the greatest goalies ever, Marc-Andre Fleury, one of the greatest goalies today in Jordan Binnington. People look at the roster and say, how do they lose? Help us understand how this happens.
I don't know how that happened. I mean, Stockholm is a fun city.
Okay.
So
they're having fun too. And as they should.
They're having fun, but I'm sorry, that should never happen. That should never happen. The roster that they had
for a World Championship roster,
that should never happen. And honestly, shame on those guys for letting that happen. I'm just being honest. Like, I played in the World Championships 3 times. Was fortunate enough to win, to get a silver, and I think we finished 4th my first time I went there. You're a professional athlete. Yes, you go over there perhaps for selfish reasons, right?
Mm-hmm.
To elevate your own stock, to elevate yourself potentially for, in this case, Olympic year next year.
Yeah.
Why else would you go? Like, it's especially those guys. Those guys want to be on the Olympic team.
Mm-hmm.
That's why those higher profile guys went. Everybody has their, for me, we were out. Andy Murray was the coach. Great opportunity. I knew I was going to get a chance to play. It was in Russia. Actually, I went twice. The first 2 times were in Russia. First time's in St. Petersburg. First time was 2002. Second time 2007 in Moscow. Nobody really wanted to go. We ended up winning the World Championship that year. And quick story, Steve Yzerman was awesome. Brought back the same team, the same 4th line.
He was the GM.
Myself, Chimera, Jay McClement. The next year, when it was in Canada and everybody wanted to go, he stuck with that 4th line and brought us back.
So you played in Canada too?
Played in Canada, Halifax and Quebec City. It was unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
In that one, we lost. No, I'm not going to say it was Hitch's fault, but we lost to Russia in the final.
You did.
But
who was on that team?
All-star team.
Okay.
All-star team. Like
Kovalchuk.
Oh yeah, Ovechkin. All those guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it was.
And they take more pride in it, right? I mean, you always hear that European countries and European players take more pride in representing their country in the World Championships than the North American players.
I think it's to a lesser degree now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's like that. I think, guys, the way the world's changed, 20 years ago, I would say that guys compete harder for their country than they do for the cup. I don't think it's that way anymore.
That way. I just mean are raising their hand that they want to go more so than a lot of the
very
American
true.
players.
It means a lot around the world.
Yeah.
The World Championship.
Is there more pressure from their country for them to go there and represent? I mean,
yes, it means more. There's less players in a lot of those countries that they're massive celebrities there, and if they don't go and they're seen around town, they're gonna be like, "Why aren't you at the World Championship?"
Wasn't it Latvia last year? Who was it? That was like they were like celebrating in the streets until the wee hours of the morning.
Absolutely, it's well, that Latvian group, they party. Doesn't matter what's going on. But shocking that happened. Surprising, and then it's not catastrophic. No one's going to hit reset.
All right, I want to hit a couple different topics with you real quick. Kids who get cut from their teams right now, what's your message to them?
I always tell crew, this is the best example I can give you. I won't know what kind of player you are until you're 25. What sounds ridiculous to a kid. But the point is this. The finish line is not 12. The finish line is not 16. It's not 18. It's not even 20. And what I mean by that is if you keep playing long enough and you keep grinding and keep focusing on the process of getting better, the finish line is 25. that's when we'll know what kind of player you end up being or what you are.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always going to be disappointments. That those disappointments, you're allowed to feel sorry for yourself. I always tell players,
Mm-hmm.
take today, feel sorry for yourself, feel bad.
Mm-hmm.
But then you wake up tomorrow and you put your hard hat on and you get to work to get better.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's other people that aren't doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of kids, they want, like it's hard now for kids because everything's on social media. Everyone's progress is on social media. And for me at 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, I was just doing the work,
Mm-hmm.
right? I wasn't concerned that I wasn't on the under 18 team or MVP of this tournament. And they get to see these reminders of how well certain segments of kids are doing
Mm-hmm.
at the brick, at the peewee, at this. And then they're like, well, if they keep grinding, like that's not really the important stuff. But it's
Right.
hard for kids because they see all
They
that,
see
right?
that, and it's celebrated at a much more visible level than ever before, and so it's in your face, and so they feel that.
I'll give you one quick.
Yeah.
Crew, I say to crew, do you know who the best player in Toronto? There's probably like 25 kids at my age that
Mhm.
play in the NHL.
Mhm.
So imagine growing up in that environment, how many good players there were.
Mhm.
I say to him, and we're talking about Anson Carter, Mike Pekka, plethora of players, Jason Alf, like all those guys were in our wheelhouse of
And
growing up.
Anson was always one of the best players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's say I always say who was the best player when we were 12. That's what I ask
Mhm.
crew. And I said, he was like, I don't know. I said, Chris Scharf. He's like, who's he? And I said, exactly.
Mhm.
He's drafted high in the OHL, never developed, grew quicker
Yeah.
than everybody else. Was a tremendous player at 12 years old. Now, it's less likely nowadays that you'll be able to catch up or you'll be a late bloomer.
Why is that?
Because the skill set required to play the game today is so much greater than it was. So I, as an example, was able to be a late bloomer because of athleticism and desire.
Mm-hmm.
But now the fourth line guys, as the game progresses, even 10 years from now, are going to be so darn skilled that you're not going to be able to catch up to that skill level to be able to play at the highest level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. Let me flip the script. And I'm curious, for a kid who knows that they're on a team that has always been one of the best players, isn't stressed out in tryouts, isn't surprised when they make the team, how do you have that kid make them feel a sense of accomplishment, that they accomplished something and that they should celebrate making the team when they always knew they were going to be on the team and they always have been that guy on the team?
I think we don't, for me, I don't talk about making the team. I don't even celebrate. It's like one of our kids that gets straight A's. You're supposed to get straight A's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, where's your bar?
Right.
So to me, it's like, I don't, maybe it's the wrong approach, but I don't celebrate making the team. Of course, you're going to make the team.
Right.
If that's your goal, then we're not doing this for the right reasons. The goal is to be the best player, one of the top 25 players, 50 players in the country.
Mm-hmm.
That's the goal. So we're not done the work. Like the work is just, we're in the work to get to that top 50. Like that's the focus to me. And top 50 in the US isn't even, it doesn't get you where you want to go because you got, every other country has top 25 players, right? So I think reestablishing the bar for kids who are high achievers and establishing the bar and making them understand, like, well, that's not my goal. My goal is to dominate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I think if you can just change their thought process, then they start thinking on that line, and then they're like, yeah, of course I made the team. Like, not that they don't feel proud in that, because they should, but we just keep them on a different path.
You know, like this guy, AJ Greer, fourth liner for Florida, like he's really stood out to me. Like, and he was a healthy scratch, I think, the first couple of games of the playoffs this year. He's 28 years old, just scored his first ever career playoff goal. I don't know if he ever played a playoff game prior to this year. Was he on the team last year? I'm just trying to remember. So, I mean, it's, those are the stories too, at 28 years of age, like just getting a taste of it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And he had to just continue to grind and keep his head down and hope that he got an opportunity. And if he did get an opportunity, it was up to him what he was going to do with it.
Yeah. I always go back to teams that win have leaders that make everyone feel a part of it. And I'll tell you why this is important, Andy. it's not easy to get bag skated every day for 2 months with the idea you might have to go in, right?
And they tell you that, but do you really believe that?
You don't. You don't believe it. You know what winning teams do? They make sure Greer feels a part of it. They make sure the guys who got taken out because that fourth line's doing so well feel a part of it. Because if one of those guys gets injured, they got to go in. And if they're not ready, it's going to break the chain. And I'll tell you what, that's something that I know that every winning team does, because I saw Jonathan Toews make sure everybody that was part of that group was doing the work, and it doesn't take much. It just takes like conversation, bringing them a part of the meals, inviting them out to dinner, and now they feel a part of it. And now you feel like I got to stay ready. I want to stay ready for you. Because if I have to go in, then I want to be ready to.
Well, 100%. And Greer, for the record, he never played a playoff game until this year in the playoffs, and he's played 248 career NHL regular season games, but 28 years of age, never got into the playoffs until this year, and obviously is doing his thing. And Florida is just so good; they're so much better than everybody else. But some of it has to be Carolina. Carolina, I don't know if it's a mental thing for them. I'm starting to wonder if it is. The deeper they get into the playoffs, going up against a team like Florida, and as good of a coach as Rod Brind'Amour is, you just wonder, does he deserve any criticism? They don't get it done every year when they're expected to be better than where they ultimately finish.
Yeah, I think that what I hope kids watching are noticing, that there's a difference between skill and hard skill. And when I watch Florida, I'm going to change the terminology when I talk to my teams, is that everything starts and finishes at the net. So they start at the net. They might leave the front of the net, but they get back to the front of the net. They start and finish at the front of the net. At least one person is always there. Yeah, they do their interchanging. They're hard on pucks, but it's hard skill. It's holding on the pucks. It's slip plays. It's D that trust their forwards to be able to go wherever they desire, to keep an unbelievably tight gap. So that, obviously every team goes on long rims, but watch the positioning, the swarming positioning of the offside defenseman in the offensive zone of Florida. And the only way to release that is to do what Toronto did, and they got 3 or 4 breakaways a game because of it, is you've got to make plays across the ice to the far side and blow the zone once in a while to keep them honest. And if you don't, you're not making those 10-foot, 12-foot passes in zone. And if you don't leave the zone, you're going to be in trouble. So there's a risk in it. But that's how you make them pay. They're so tight.
Well, their gap is so
tight.
So that's the way you can maybe push their D back, you're saying, by blow the zone a little bit.
You got to blow the zone, and you got to do indirects, and you got to leave the zone a little bit early.
And try to get some chances off the rush, you're saying.
I think you got to leave the zone a little bit early and take a couple chances.
Yeah. Do they have the players that can do that? I think
they do. They just got to be told they got to leave the zone.
Right. I've talked to players in Carolina for years, and the one criticism they have of Rod Brind'Amour is the lack of in-game adjustments that they feel in-game and also from game to game when they get into the playoffs. And adjustments are big, right? In the Stanley Cup playoffs?
It becomes a chess match. It becomes, that's something that Paul Maurice is so good at. And in game, well, there's no one better than Joe Quibble. And I've had a lot of coaches, several of them Hall of Famers. No one better in game than Joe.
Yeah.
But I think that Paul Maurice is similar. I have never played for Paul, but in that, putting the guys out there that are going, recognizing it early. And last series against Toronto, it wasn't the Bennett line. It really wasn't.
No, well, none of the stars really scored last series. You knew they would, come to the forefront eventually, and now Bennett had a great game. In game 2.
But what did he do?
Matty went to the net.
But he leaned on, I'm saying Paul Maurice leaned on the third line.
And
the Sterainen line.
And their defense.
Yeah. And then now they're going, so they're playing more.
Right.
Different situation. What starts they're getting? Offensive zone starts. who they're up against.
Verhaeghe now playing with Kachuk and Bennett, which that was never he didn't play with. I don't think Kachuk. I think he said after the game last night he didn't play with Verhaeghe all season long.
Well, I knew it was coming. The one game, I think it was Game 6 against Toronto. I did a thing on Hockey Night Canada about Verhaeghe. He had 14 attempts.
Wow,
14.
so good.
Okay, so he had 4 shots on net, 14 attempts, 4 shots on net. I think it was 4 more were blocked. And then he missed the net like 6 or 7 times.
Well, I know he scores a ton of goals, though. I mean, this guy has always been a good goal scorer. And
very few guys can score from distance. He has an unbelievable
shot.
Yeah.
Bennett, if you're a team, how much you paying this guy?
Listen, I think that he's a driver. He's a guy that is a rare combination of like ferocity and skill.
But does he need to be surrounded by a particular group to really shine the way that he is in Florida?
He does, but I think that if you're a team like that already has your top 2 forwards, 3 forwards, I don't think you bring him in to be your first line forward, your first line center. I think if you already have a number 1 center, you bring him in to be the 2.
He's not your scoring driver.
No. But you see what I'm saying? Like if you already have a top two guys that are on the top.
If you have Reinhart and Kachuk and Barkov and Verhaeghe, then
we don't even need. I'd say that you have the 2.
I know.
If you have Barkov and Kachuk, you bring in him.
Correct.
But I'll tell you what, I would overpay him by $1.5 million.
What you're saying is if you have Matthews and Nylander, you bring him in, right?
Yeah, and overpay him.
Now we'll see if that happens. I've been told over and over that he is unlikely to sign with the Canadian team, but you just never know.
Listen, at the end of the day, he's gonna if they win this series, they're gonna go back to the final for the 3 times in a row. I don't know about you, but I don't know if it makes a difference to him if he makes $8 million a year with no taxes, no state tax, or he makes 11, not whatever. Even if it goes up to 11, does his life change between 8 and 11?
No. And he seems like a guy who, like, he doesn't talk on the ice. That's what I like the most about him. He's not chirping guys.
No.
He's very quiet. You watch him get interviewed, he's just quiet. Real quick, Mitch Marner, I'll throw that on you now. Is it all on him? I mean, like, do these guys take too much heat individually to where it's like they'd never really put together a full-on roster that's capable of winning the Stanley Cup? Is it? Can you just rely on your star skilled guys to get you there?
No, I don't know why we just keep doing the same thing. I expect something different to happen.
I know.
They need to insulate and bring in harder players.
Yeah.
Like one guy who did it really well for me was Patch. Pacioretty, like brought that part of what they needed.
Which really had never been part of his game his entire career. And all of a sudden he's like, I want to win and I'm going to do whatever it takes to line up here.
I think he cost them the game. It's a little bit, the moment of what he did, it sounds like a small thing. When he dumped the puck in to the goaltender and then they transition and end up scoring. You're a smart player. You wire it along the glass or you put it soft into the corner. You pass it to the goalie? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
That's like the number one no.
Yeah.
And then they transition and then they get scored on. Like, that's not smart. In the second period, it's a long change.
But they're not Florida. I mean, I think sometimes you got to look at the opposition too. It's like St. Louis could never get past Chicago. They couldn't get past L.A. When you were playing, you guys couldn't get past Colorado and Detroit. It's just some of those teams just will have your number, and you're just not as good as those teams. But they took them to Game 7, won the division. The sky isn't falling. Although Brendan Shanahan, listen, he's not going back there, and that's probably the right call from that standpoint. And they got to figure out what they are, who they are, and go back at it again next year. I think they do look at some of these star players, the Yzermans, the Ovechkins, the fact that McDavid's never won. They got a lot of these guys who either won late in their career, a lot of superstars in the game today that have never won.
Yep.
So it's hard to win, right?
It's incredibly difficult to win.
Pronger, who we've got coming on later on, he didn't win his first, 10, 11, 12 years, whatever it was. When he was here in St. Louis, he left and, eventually he landed in Anaheim and that's when he won. You know what I mean? It's tough to win.
It is. I think that, winning started to follow him. I mean,
Went to the Stanley Cup final of 3 different organizations that he essentially took
Yeah.
to the final.
Yes. Yes. So it's he was it's interesting the way he played the game and it's got to be interesting for him to watch today's game.
Mm-hmm.
And the game still rewards the savages. Right? You look at Florida and they have some savages.
They've got some savages.
Right?
I think Dallas has some too.
You got to have some dogs.
Mm-hmm.
It's still the game.
I think that could be an amazing, and we'll see what happens with game 2. Obviously, Edmonton is far from being out of the series. They're right there, just down to 1 game to none. I just have liked this Dallas team all season long.
Yeah.
I know they struggled down the stretch in the regular season. Took some time for Rantanen to
They're getting healthy now too, so
they're they got everything. Young superstars, veteran superstars who now have a different role, and they settled into that role. They've got big D, mobile D, great goaltending.
What's scary for them is they've had some key players that haven't shown up yet.
Mm-hmm. Like Jamie Benn.
Ben and unbelievable scorer.
Duchesne
just showed up. Talking about the left-hand winger can fly.
Hence?
No, dude.
You're talking about Sagan? Who are we talking about?
No. They're best scorer.
Oh, Robertson.
Robertson hasn't done anything.
Yeah, you forgot his name last week, too. I didn't think you were talking about him again.
Well, we're against him.
He hasn't scored. And he was hurt down the stretch, too. I just feel like his game has dropped a little bit over the course of the last season or so. But I'm with you there. But you know what? They've got so many other players that can deliver. You just wonder at some point he's going to have his turn and he's going to win a game for him.
I'm not betting against the best player in the world. There's no way. They're going to win this series.
Oh, Edmonton will.
I'm going to go with Edmonton.
Okay.
Let's bet on it right now.
All right. No, hey, listen. I'll bet you. All
right.
I just feel like this is Dallas' year. It's Pete DeBoer's year. Eventually, he's going to crack through. But whoever Florida faces in the final, they haven't faced a team like Edmonton or Dallas yet.
They have not. And
because Tampa Bay, who they faced in the first round, was a little bit of a disappointment for me.
That's true.
And Toronto was a disappointment. Even though it went 7, they ended up losing 4 or 5. They had a 2-0 lead, and just
how about
went away.
Forgetting about Game 3, they were up 3-1.
I know. What's for dinner tonight, Jamal?
Well, Barlino's. You think about it. They have 5 restaurants now: Barlino South, Barlino's Osteria, Chris's Pancake and Dining, and Chris is at the Docket. And of course, you've been there to celebrate, and I have as well. Barlino's Twin Oaks forge many lasting relationships with their customers. Their family model: cook good food, serve plenty. 50+ years in business, only 2 places to dine: at Barlino's, at home, or at one of Barlino's family restaurants.
And can I take over the Dobbs Tire?
Let's do it
real quick, because they've got a big Memorial Day savings.
Nice.
And we have Memorial Day weekend coming up right now. So $75 off services plus big savings on select Goodyear tires. So get those Goodyear tires now through May 28th. Schedule today. Where do they go to schedule, Jamal?
What's that?
Where do they go to schedule?
Go to Dobbs.com for more.
Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers brings us Jamal Mayers each and every week here on
Great family business.
Sense. Great family business.
Up, fixed, and out.
Okay.
The same day.
All right, you're taking crew to Stick and Puck?
Yeah.
And everything else is good, man? What else is going on in your life now coming up?
Oh, just watching some St. Joe soccer. Hopefully they can get to the state final. A big game today, so we'll see.
Okay. All right. All the best, man. We'll see you next week.
Good to see you.
All right, listen, summer vacation right around the corner. You got to pick the best spot: family vacations, beach vacations, all-inclusive vacations. Where do you want to go this summer? There's so many different options. So instead of all of us trying to figure it out, we bring in the expert, Sandy Meyer, Business Development Manager, Apple Vacations. Sandy, thanks for coming in. How are you today?
Andy, thanks for having me. It's Friday. It's a beautiful day here in St. Louis, and we're going to talk travel.
Where's the best place to go right now? The hottest vacation spot? Go.
vacation spot out of St. Louis is Cancun. It's a 2-hour, 20-minute flight, nonstop, goes daily, year round. You can be on the beach by noon. You can take your family. You can go for a honeymoon. It's just the best spot and the most convenient for St. Louis travelers.
And even when it's hot here in St. Louis, even though it's hot in Cancun, you still get everything else that comes with these resorts. You can still go in the summer months, can't you?
Oh, absolutely. Because you've got a pool, you've got a beach, which we don't have beaches here in the Midwest. And then you have all inclusive. So why not take a week of vacation and let someone else do all your cooking and all your cleaning and serve you drinks poolside or beachside?
All right, we'll take that for sure. 4 days a week, nonstop flights to Punta Cana. That's going on right now?
Yeah, so we have 4 times a week nonstop flights to Punta Cana, Andy. Another great, if you don't want Mexico, and there's a few people that just aren't looking for Mexico, Punta Cana's in the Caribbean. Beautiful beaches, again, a little over 3-hour nonstop flight, 4 times a week. And we take that flight to Punta Cana 10 months out of the year. So if you're looking for something different and you're not interested in Mexico, take a flight to Punta Cana. It's nonstop.
I love it. That's easy. Jump on the plane, get there, and then go have some fun. All right, 2026. It sounds like it's far away, but it really isn't. And they're bringing back Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, nonstop, starting in January 2026.
Yeah, Andy, and Puerto Vallarta is one of my favorite destinations. Talk about the best sunsets in the world, right? So we're excited to bring back Puerto Vallarta for 2026. We have it for about a 10-week duration, starting mid-January to the end of March, which is a great time to go to Puerto Vallarta because you can see the whales. Have you ever seen those whales jumping in the ocean from your balcony or your dorm, like your room on the resort? Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I love that. All right, so everyone focuses on the sun and the beach, but there's other options, right? There's some great vacations out there. European vacations are one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So, about a year and a half or so ago, we used to be the Sun and Fun company. Right now, we are including Europe in that portfolio. So, if you've got clients that are doing cruises, and cruises are big this year, and you want to go in early and enjoy the city that your cruise is leaving from, we do pre and post cruising options as well as city stays. So, I just jumped a flight and went to London for 5 days in April, right? It was a quick getaway, it was easy to do. Of course, our travel advisors are very educated on our destinations for Europe as well. So definitely reach out to your travel advisor. But we are now Europe as well.
Are those nonstop flights or you got to stop somewhere?
Yeah, for our Europe, nothing nonstop out of St. Louis. Back in the old days, we used to have TWA nonstop, right? We don't have that anymore. But, it's okay to make that connection because those are typically 8-hour flights. So if you fly to Charlotte or Dallas or Chicago or Atlanta, you make a connection. It gives you that little bit of time on the ground before you catch your next leg. But they're easy flights to catch. And again, a quick 5-6 day getaway to London, Rome, Frankfurt, Milan. I mean, you could just pick your destination and go.
All right, so people are asking themselves right now, well, where do I stay when I go to Cancun? That's why they reach out to you, and you can help them figure out the best place to stay, depending on how many people they're with, are kids with you, and whatnot. What's the best way to reach you? And of course, we've got Gail over at Travel House as well, at travelhouse.com. So I know you guys all work together, don't you?
Yeah, we do. And I'm the business development manager, for ALG Vacations, Apple Vacations, and other brands. But my best advice is reach out to your local travel advisor. Gail and that crew at the Travel House are amazing. They've been around a long time. They know they're the best places to send you, and they qualify their clients. So for me, to the audience, definitely reach out to your travel advisors. We support them 100%.
I love it. Gail Alshie, obviously, Travel House, travelhouse.com. You hear me talk about Travel House all the time. HAUS, travelhouse.com. Call Gail today or check out their website for more information. Listen, Sandy, thanks for all the great information. I want to bring you back on in the next week or two. We'll do this again and continue to push Cancun and get people out there for the summer so they can enjoy themselves.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andy.
All right, Sandy, have a great weekend.
You do the same.
Take care. That's Sandy Meyer. Again, check it out. Apple Vacations Business Development Manager. And love having Sandy on the show. Travelhouse.com. Check that out and give Gail Alshie a call today. Chris Pronger, the Hall of Famer, he's coming on next. Don't go anywhere. All right, the Hall of Famer, Chris Pronger, TV star, by the way. I mean, just settle it down, Prongs. Settle it down.
You settle it down.
Tell the people I'm bringing you in late today. Just tell them right now.
Yeah, 20 minutes late. That's pretty good for you, Andrew.
Made you wait. Made you wait. I appreciate the patience.
Well, actually, I was about to actually hang up. So
I'm blaming Jamal because I did him a favor by coming in a half hour early and he was still late. He pushed everything back. So, Jammer, if you want to take that up with him, you're more than welcome.
okay.
Okay. Any word?
What can I do for you, Andy?
Any words of advice from you? Go to Pronger's Instagram. You may feel better about yourself. If you're ever down, I just go to your Instagram.
It's all about positivity, Andy.
So give me something positive to start my day today.
Well, how about this one? Don't be late. Start on time.
Why don't you tell the Carolina Hurricanes to start on time?
I don't think that has much to do with the Carolina Hurricanes.
It's all Florida?
I would say a lot of it is Florida. I don't think when you look at Carolina's roster, Washington, I think Washington is in a retool still. Like Washington's not a fast team. Florida is technically they don't have a lot of burners with respect to speed, but they play a fast game. They play a physical game, which slows you down. They have really tight gaps with their defensemen. That first goal last night, Forsling was right on top of Svechnikov the whole time. The pass comes to him. He has no time and space to make the second pass. Now he kind of takes it back in deeper into his zone, and then he just throws a hope play up the wall, turnover, bounces in on Forsling's stick, and he rips it past Anderson. A minute into the game, it's 1-0, and now if you're Carolina, you're like, oh my God, here we go again. We just felt this 2 nights ago. And the relenting pressure of Florida just consistently finishing their checks, finishing progression. That can be annoying and tiring, and when you're not able to do that on the other end.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. The third round, it's always interesting to me in the conference final because first round, you know what you're going to get from everybody. I mean, it's just, ready to run through a wall. Everyone's just going crazy. It's incredible hockey you're watching.
Fairly healthy. I mean, there's always guys that are banged up a little bit, but you're fairly healthy usually in the first round.
Second round, you got to do it again, right? And you still see a high level of intensity. What do we see in the third round versus in the fourth round in the final when we all know both teams, whoever get there, are going to flip that switch and it's going to be, balls to the wall? Is the third round, is it human nature? I don't want to say take your foot off the gas, but is it tough to maintain that level of intensity when you get to this stage of the playoffs? The stage of the playoffs.
Yeah, it can be for some. I think the 6 days off for Carolina, I believe it was, 5 days off for Carolina, 6 for Edmonton. 5 days off for Carolina, I don't think did them any favors. When you're playing at a high level like they were against Washington, that suffocating style that they play, getting 5 days off, in my opinion, does not help you. You want to keep playing, you want to keep rolling, you want to keep playing to your identity, playing to the system in place, playing to your structure. They're not a highly talented team. So the other day on TV, I was talking about Carolina 5 days off versus Edmonton 6 days off. I think completely different. Edmonton's got high level skill. They're the type of team that is making plays, that's going to settle a puck down, look where they're going to shoot, and then pick their spot. Carolina just gets a puck and they fling it at the net. So there's not a lot of skill involved in kind of their identity or their system. It's high shot volume, traffic at the net, get to the net, apply pressure, and break down the opposition in that regard. And when they're not able to get that pressure, they don't create a lot of offense. Their system is predicated on pressure and turnovers. And when they don't create them, they have a hard time manufacturing offense just on their own.
Yeah. Hockey's interesting because, like, if you compare it to football and basketball, for example, like it's all about the elite superstars. They carry you to a championship, and often that's the case in hockey as well. But as we saw from Florida earlier in the playoffs, they weren't getting a lot of offense from the Barkovs and the Kachucks, and some of these other guys were a little more quiet. Their defense had been scoring. They were getting production from fourth line guys scoring their first ever career playoff goal. Um, so what is it about Florida versus even a Toronto, for example? Do we focus too much on it has to be all about the stars, or do you have to build a team that is truly capable of withstanding 4 rounds of the Stanley Cup playoffs and having different guys step up at different times?
Absolutely. You have to have depth, and you have to have players up and down your lineup. We talk about secondary scoring, tertiary scoring. We got to have players, your fifth line, your guys that are healthy scratches. Those guys at some point, due to injury, due to, lineup changes, what have you, are going to come in and they need to provide some production. They need to not give up any goals from a defensive standpoint. And then from an offensive standpoint, they have to be able to chip in at some point, provide some offense. And so we've seen Florida now, third year in a row, get that up and down their lineup. It's not just relying, as you said, relying on Barkov or Kachuk or Sam Reinhart to solely do all the scoring. Sam Bennett's leading their team in scoring this year. And I think Carter Verhaeghe was leading their team last year. So they've been getting different players. Now you got their third line with Marchand, Lundell, and Luosterainen. They're their leading point getter. Their line is the leading point getter on their team. So they're getting balanced production offensively, and they play a stingy defense. And when there is a breakdown, they got a $10 million goaltender in Bobrovsky who's equal to the task and ready to make the save. So at times they give up a grade A opportunity. Their goalie is there, boom, they make the save. It to the naked eye, it feels like it was a good chance, but they're so infrequent that they're down on the other end, crashing and banging and grinding, and just the relentless physicality. That you look at last series against Toronto. If I'm not mistaken, I think all 6 defensemen had the most total hits against in the playoffs, which is a pretty telling stat that all they're doing is just dumping it in and finishing their check, dumping it in and finishing their check, trying to wear them down. And by wearing them down, it backs them off the blue line. And now they have easy entry into the offensive zone. And now they can start making plays.
How much does coaching come into play, in your opinion? I've talked to Carolina Hurricane players in the past. Some say, hey, adjustments in the playoffs are big. Maybe they don't make a ton of adjustments. I feel like if Brendan Moore was coaching in Toronto, that's all we'd hear about right now. They need a coaching change. They just can't get over the hump, and they're there every year, but they just can't get it done. How do you look at Carolina, and how important is coaching? Is Paul Maurice out coaching Brendan Moore? Or is it not really fair to say that?
I don't. System also involves
personnel,
roster construction, and how you put a team together. They have a different style that they use. They're analytic driven. They're looking at different numbers. They're looking at cost of the player in salary, salaries, etc. So there's a lot that goes into how they do it. I'm sure, I know Florida has analytics and data that they look at for different players, but they also look at, is the player's character, is he going to fit into the identity of our team and how we want to play? And then they have their core group of leaders that then take hold of the team and this is how we play. This is what's expected of you. This is the compete that we want night in and night out. And then they have players on their team that on those nights where you're not necessarily interested in getting involved, the Kachucks, the Marchands, which was a great acquisition for them, and bringing in Marchand, another guy that's going to stir the pot and drag guys into the fight, maybe when they don't feel like it, and check your pride at the door and engage every single night and play with an edge. And I think that's arguably right now one of the best pickups at the deadline. In just what he's been able to provide, not only from an offensive standpoint, but just what he brings night in, night out with his compete. He's not always going to be on the board from an offensive standpoint, but he can kill penalties. He can, stir it up and just, play with that edge that he's done so long.
I feel like when you win, it's easier to take on that mentality and that team first mentality. I'm sure when you started winning.
I disagree.
Really?
I disagree, because you have to have that. In order to win, you have to have that. You're not going to win and then, now it's all about the team. You have to be all about the team in order to win. And sometimes you have to sacrifice offensive production to fill a role that the team needs you to do. So, not everybody, everybody wants to be the shooter.
Yeah.
Not everybody wants to drive the net to take their man with them to open up a hole for somebody else so they can get their shot on net while you drive and take a pounding. Some guys take pride in that. Some guys don't. And that's hard to quantify with analytics.
Yeah.
A guy driving the net and taking a pounding.
Yeah, I just feel like when you have one, the individual numbers, maybe they're not as important, and it is all about winning, and it's easier to make some of those sacrifices, That's just my opinion there.
But you have to win first.
Yeah.
To make sure, to understand that it actually works.
Mm-hmm.
Which means which goes back to your question about coaching, moving different pieces around to see where the right fit is and who fits in with what line mate. Who's got chemistry? Who doesn't? Who's the right fit? Maybe not the best fit, but the right fit.
Mm-hmm.
And those are two separate things.
All right. Speaking of right fit, so Florida's obviously the right fit for Sam Bennett. Like, it's just automatic. If he were to leave the Panthers and go somewhere else, that he's going to be just as effective of a player as he is there. I mean, how much sometimes is it about the situation you're in?
Oh, a lot of times it's all about the situation you're in and the style of play that a team wants to present night in and night out. The way the Florida Panthers play is right in his wheelhouse. He wants to play a physical game. He wants to play with an edge. He wants to get in and around the front of the net. Sam Bennett at what does he make? $5.5 million? Versus if we're talking about Sam Bennett at $10 million, you're expecting so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Expectations come with the dollar amount. So now you're going to pay this guy $10 million. Okay, well, what if he only scores 20 goals? Like, he's never shown he's going to be an 80, 90, 100-point guy. That's what $10 million a year players are. He's a 60-point guy. So with the amount of money comes, for a lot of people and a lot of fans, expectations. Oh, well, he's going to play more, therefore he's going to provide more offense. And that's not always the case, because a lot of the things that he does well are the intangibles, the physical presence, the face-offs, the killing penalties, the things of that nature that don't necessarily show up on the stat sheet as it relates to making $10 million, because everybody's only looking at the offensive production when you start getting up in those numbers. So, and he's not a number one center. He's a number two center. Like, he's a second line center.
No doubt. I think most teams would agree with that.
You're now overpaying him at $10 million. You're overpaying him just to acquire him, which is fine. If you have the space, great. We have a escalating salary cap, so that's fine. And you have to make sure that slotting in your lineup how he fits in, and where he fits in and where he's going to be best utilized. And I think that's where, as we look at roster construction and look, at Florida, for instance, the players that they brought in have not only fit the identity of the team and how they want to play, but they fit into the holes that they use them.
Yeah.
And they're able to put them in positions of success for the player. Like, the player is going to fit in this role, and they're going to play extremely well for the team. And I heard somebody talking about it last night. And then if they excel and succeed, then they're willing to let him go because they can't afford to pay him. Now they've earned like Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Played extremely well last year. They win the cup. He moves on to Toronto and makes more money.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how it works. And they're okay with that. They'll go find another guy. They got Nico Mikkola step up and fill in this role and develop and turn into a top 4 defenseman.
Yeah.
And so you have this development pipeline, and then you pick up a Gustav Forsling on waivers. Anybody could have had this guy.
Amazing.
And on and on and on. Like people think it's always just about, oh, well, people, they're saving on taxes, so that's why they're going there. No, they're going there because they get an opportunity.
Yeah.
And it fits the way they want to play.
And Reinhardt's on a great contract. Barkov's on a good contract.
Yeah, but
Kachuk's on a great
how
contract.
did they get Reinhardt?
He wanted to stay.
No, how did they
Well,
get
they
him?
got him in a trade.
Thank you. How'd they get Bennett?
Trade.
Okay. How'd they get Mikkola?
Trying to remember because he went to the
Rangers.
Yeah. So if
I don't even think they qualified, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm.
I'm not sure. They either traded for him or they signed him after he was released.
Yeah.
Like it just, they traded for Seth Jones, which, you could argue, was it a good trade and a bad trade? He's played pretty good.
He's played pretty good the last couple of weeks. Yeah. I mean, like he has. Yeah.
In the beginning, he wasn't great, but he's also trying to figure it out too.
Yeah.
He hasn't been in that environment in a long time, playing in Chicago and Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
Kachuk was a trade. I mean, he was going to be a free agent, but it was a trade. They needed money in, money out. And they got to speak with him early.
Mm-hmm. And he wanted to go there. So
yeah, Lois Sarainen trade, part of the Trocheck trade, Lundell draft, Barkov draft, Ekblad draft. The only free agent signing, Bobrovsky, and then Verhaeghe was Tampa couldn't afford him, and they only paid him, I think, $1 million or $1.5 million when he came to Florida. So it's not like anybody could have had some of these guys.
Yeah.
Now, could they have re-signed him? Maybe not, but they could have had them and tried to win with them and then entice them to stay.
So are you saying you would not overpay to keep Sam Bennett? If he's looking for the biggest payday, you just let him walk?
Well, this becomes where the taxes come into play. This is where, if he's going to make $8 million in Florida, that's probably 11 in Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I remember when I was in Florida, we were trying to trade for Mark Stone. He signs for 9.5, which is what we were at. 9.5 in Florida is 9.5 in Vegas. In order for Ottawa to pay that same amount, he was gonna have to make $13 million.
It's that.
So that
the gap is that wide. The gap is that wide.
Yeah. Well, with taxes and where they were at in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And so that's the only place where I believe it makes a difference.
Okay.
But now on top of that though, 15 years ago when Florida was 10 years ago, when Florida was the armpit of the league, nobody was signing there.
No.
And oh, by the way, they still had tax advantages.
I know. That's so I think sometimes it's
you
okay
can't
to
sit here and tell me that, it's only about, no, it's because they have an opportunity to win.
Same with Tampa.
And it's the culture.
And Vegas.
It's how they operate their business. It's how they operate their team. It's the culture that they've created. Every team has that opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and as a guy who made a lot of money as a player, does your life change that much, Prongs, if you're making $9 million in Florida versus 13 in Ottawa?
No, guys want to be happy. Guys want to be part of a winning. Guys want to win. Mm-hmm. Your career is short. Very short. It's shorter than you think it's going to be. And then you mix in injuries and whatnot, and it can be even shorter.
Yeah.
And when you're given a choice, I've seen guys go for the money, and for the most part, take a few guys here or there. They've been miserable because it wasn't a fit. The style, the culture, the whatever, the pressure. Well, the pressure of being, whatever. Of now, if you're, let's say you're a $4 million player and you're making $7 million, you go for the money, you're relied upon to provide offense or whatever your role is every single night versus just being a complimentary player.
Yeah.
And being somebody who, when you do produce, it's not you have to produce. It's just nice that you're producing. It's an added bonus that you score 25 to 30 goals every single year versus being this guy has to score 40 goals every year. Scoring 25 to 30 versus having to score 40, that's a lot of pressure and and people don't realize it's 10 to 15 goals, but that's a huge difference over the course of an 82 game season.
Does Marner take too much heat, or is it deserved?
In what regard? Heat for what?
The team,
just how he plays.
Him not leading the team to more team success.
Okay, well, what do you want him to do?
That's what I'm asking you.
No, I know, but you're not finishing the question. Like, what leading to what? He's not the captain.
Well, it goes back to what I was saying earlier. Have they put the necessary resources surrounding their star players to build a championship team?
Well, first off, I would argue that they spent the money in the wrong places. They had Matthews, they had Nylander, they had Marner, and then they went and got Tavares.
What they need him for?
To me, that $11 million could have been spent elsewhere.
By two players, two or three players.
The issue being they didn't build down the middle. You've got Nylander, a winger, who, by the way, has been really good in the course of the last 4 or 5 playoffs. Marner, a winger. Then you have Matthews as the center. Riley is allegedly their star defenseman. And then they've had a wrong door in goal.
And Tavares.
So they spend when the cap was lower and stuck at a number, they had over half their cap in 4 players, 2 of which were wingers. And one of which, and you're asking me about Mitch Marner, he's small. So in the playoffs, where let's call it 85 to 90% of the scoring is done in and around the front of the net, he's not going there. He's going to make some neat little plays and the power play and things like that. But again, there's not as many power plays in the playoffs. Teams, whether you want to say the referees put the whistle away, whether you want to say teams are more disciplined, however you want to look at it, there's just not as many power plays. So, we can look at the Dallas game the other night. Edmonton was undisciplined.
Exactly.
They took those penalties. And their PK did not rise to the challenge. And Dallas, the Heiskanen goal was Skinner probably should have had it. He was screened though. He just wasn't looking out the proper side of the screen. The third goal, which is the second power play goal, Granlund was a beautiful shot with a flash screen. He never saw it. The fourth goal, which was the third power play goal, was not very good. He was swimming in the net. I don't know what
Duchesne's
he
goal?
was thinking.
Duchesne's goal? Yeah.
Duchesne's goal. And then the fifth goal, the Sam Steele backhand off of Sagan's stick. What do you expect? What's he going to do on that? And then the empty net goal. So, a lot of that was self-inflicted, but for 40 minutes before that, they completely dominated Dallas. But to the point, if you're Dallas and you're solely relying on being able to come back by the power play, you better be careful, because I guarantee you they'll make the adjustments and they're not going to take those same penalties. And it'll be a different story if they don't clean up other parts of their game.
Yeah, Florida scored a couple power play goals last night too. And Edmonton's power play, they're going to break out at some point. Just
your house to think. It did not look very good, but you have to think. Earlier in the year, last season, I know every year is different, but they've had stretches where they've been really good and moved it really well. The LA series, they were pretty good. They didn't have a lot. They didn't have a lot of power plays in the Vegas series. I think they were 1 for 11, if I'm not mistaken.
So we'll see where this goes with Marner. You talk about salaries and whatever.
I think he's also, because he's from Toronto, I think that also
Pushes
into it. I don't know why it does, but I think it does. Local, hometown kid playing for the Leafs and on and on and on.
He's a $13 million player, though, Prongs. I mean, come on. Like,
I'm not, well, first off, I wouldn't pay him that, but that's me.
Mhm.
I know there's a lot of teams that, well, I don't know where he's going to fit in on their cap and who he plays with. A lot of it's going to be, well, who's he going to play with?
yeah. I know.
So, but by the way, you need players like that to get into the playoffs. Like, you got 100 points
Mhm.
and you still have to get to the playoffs. It's still really, really hard to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, as you talk about, I hear people say all the time, oh, well, you need two separate teams. Well, you need two separate styles
Mhm. Well, you also need
to a certain extent.
I mean, you pay him 12, 13 million bucks. He's going to make the owner a lot of money. You're going to fill the seats, and
Yeah.
you're going to get a lot of money in ticket sales and merchandise and all that other type of stuff that comes with it. So,
Well, there's also one caveat to that is you're paying him 13. Let's say you're paying him 13 million. I mean, he's going to be healthy. He doesn't get hit. He doesn't go to the front of the net. So you're going to get this player for the next 7 or 8 years, whatever it winds up being.
Mhm.
He's going to play. And that's also something I think as you're looking at free agency, something that plays into it as well.
Yeah.
How much, if you're looking at Bennett, okay, let's say it's Toronto and you do give him 10 million times 7. Is he going to be able to play all 7 of those years? As a $10 million player?
As a $10 million player, no. I would argue he's not a $10 million player outside of Florida, to be honest with you. I just think it's such a great situation for him.
Yeah.
But
again, they're not going to pay him $10 million.
No, they're not. And he's not going to sign in Canada either. Take that to the bank, Prongs. He will not be signing with a Canadian team, although I guess I could be wrong, but that's the word on the street. So,
Oh, yeah, and he's got Darren Ferris too. Is that correct?
he does.
Yeah. So him and Mitch.
Very good agent who's going to be busy. Represents Philip Broberg, who plays here in St. Louis. Edmonton or Dallas? Who do you like more? Which team do you like watching more?
Oh, well, I think you have to like watching Edmonton. It's like watching a car crash. You never know what you're going to get. The goalie's good sometimes. You got McDavid and Draisaitl, must-see TV. It is, it's so much fun to watch.
Nurses
the
must
Bouch-
see TV,
you got
boosters
the
must
Bouch-
see.
You got the Bouchard bomb, or you got the Bouchard pizza.
Oh my God!
They're an interesting team to watch. Dallas, with Onger and net, obviously they have the advantage in goal.
Mhm.
Their back end, now that Heiskanen's getting healthy, he's moving. Looks like he's moving a little bit more normal. He's a little.
It's getting
such
better
a
by the
smooth-
game. Yeah.
Yeah, he's just so smooth. Such a smooth skater. Very slick, mobile, agile. His agility looks like it's coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Harley's taking that next step. Lindell's solid. Labushkin's pretty good. Has been good for them.
They got the big Bishop guy. They got the combination.
He does good.
Yeah.
he's
Mobility
not-
and size,
Yeah. And then up front, they haven't had the depth scoring that Edmonton did in the first 2 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Like Jason Robertson, this guy, he looks like he's laboring. He does not look healthy. He needs to find that next gear
No question.
in order to provide some offense. Duchesne finally scored. He was buzzing in that game 1, so Seguin provides some offense. So they're now, does this game get their secondary scoring going? Because they did not have it outside of the Randon line with Hintz and Granlund, who scored again.
Mm-hmm.
Who's providing the offense for them? And if they get that secondary scoring with Seguin and Duchesne and Robertson and Johnston and Ben and on and on and on, if they're able to get that second Dadonov, if they can get those guys at least providing a little bit of production,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be dangerous.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've liked Dallas all season long. I like their coach who's been knocking at the door too. Reminds me of Paul
Yeah.
Maurice, just in terms of where
Well,
we're.
he's. You look at their team and they're very offensive, but they're not. They're defensive. They play a very tight 1-2-2. They play a very tight neutral zone. Everything's clogged in the middle. They push everything to the walls. So it'll be interesting to see how Edmonton responds tonight after that meltdown. Are they scarred? Is Skinner able to find himself? He looked throughout the whole game. He looked a little shaky.
Yeah.
We were talking about it on set. He just looked a little rusty. Had they not had that 5-day layoff, 6-day layoff, it would have been nicer for him personally just to roll right into the next series and not have the time to think about, expectations, think about the fans, think about the media, think of the questions. Are you going to be able to keep this going? All that stuff. It seems like he gets in his head pretty quickly.
Mm-hmm. Gets that rhythm.
Yeah.
Something to be said for that. Hey, before I let you go, I know you've been doing the TV stuff. Do you enjoy it? How much fun are you having doing it? Like, give us an idea of what those days are like when you're working at ESPN.
ESPN, I usually would go over there around 5:30. But throughout the course of the day, doing other hits for stuff and, doing some preparation and just trying to look at storylines for the pregame show, storylines from previous series and how those will roll over into the current series, previous games, who's hot, who's not, who's looking to kind of break out, goaltending, how's that, just kind of looking at all the different storylines. What kind of pops out to me is maybe something that the fan would like to know more about, we'll call it a little inside baseball. And then same with Sportsnet. We were just sitting around talking about, different situations that I'd been in the playoffs and just whether it was being down, 3-2, 3-1, 3-0, what have you, and then coming back to win in a couple of those series. So just what is it like in the locker room? What's it like on the ice? Referees, on and on and on. Physical play versus, speed and talent, and and then when the other day, just looking at Draisaitl and McDavid, raw speed versus big strong power in Draisaitl, and how you have to defend each of them differently. Which is what I kind of had to do throughout the course of my whole career, is match up against whether it was Sakic or Forsberg, Fedorov and Yzerman, and all the different guys that I was tasked with defending over the course of my career.
How much TV are you doing the rest of the way?
I don't have anything booked now.
Do you need me to get on that for you? Do you need me to book some stuff for you, Franks?
Yeah, please get right on that for me. No, I got a few things I got to do. I got to go. Actually, I'm going to be down in Dallas moving my son in, so I don't know. I got to see how that series plays out. Maybe I'll go to. Maybe I'll get to a game.
I need you back here next week, actually. So just put that on your calendar.
Okay, I'll get right on that.
No, but good job on TV. It was great seeing you on there, and always great catching up with you. I've got so much other stuff to get into, but don't think I won't.
You have a lot. I know you have a lot.
Oh, I know. Don't think I won't be calling back. We got to get out of the studio. We've got other people coming in.
We got to really dig into your hockey sense up here.
What's the name of the show? Hockey Sense.
I just teed it up for you.
Hockey Sense. Keep motivating the people and sharing
about positivity, Andrew.
Sharing your hockey insights. You've done it all, Prongs. You've been in the hockey. You've been a hockey executive. You work with the league. You've done television. What's your favorite thing to do when you're not playing? In ruining players' days and
ruining players' days. Oh,
when you're a player, come on, crushing their dreams and
very polite out there. Very polite.
What's the best thing to do for a player? If there's a player listening right now, you're like, okay, what do I get into? I mean, if you have the option, Tell us.
Well, I think it has to be, I think you have to try different things. I think too often, a guy at the end of his career getting ready to retire, I think he just feels like he needs to settle. And I think you need to try things, and I think you got to fail. Like we all weren't perfect playing.
Yeah.
We all made mistakes. I mean, sports is a game of mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's how you evolve and develop and learn from all those mistakes and all those failures. And how you utilize that adversity and the failures to help you grow and develop. And it's the same thing when you're done. I made a fair share of mistakes. So since I've retired, and you think you want to do one thing and you start doing it, and you realize you're not enjoying it. And the thing that I think a lot of guys need to realize is that it's okay that you don't enjoy it. And it's okay that you don't want to do it anymore. It's okay that you want to go do something else. And just because you hear somebody say, "Oh, you'd be really good at that. You should do that," doesn't mean that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
You need to do what you want to do. You've been told where to go, what to do, how to do it for 15, 20 plus years. Go do your own thing.
Yeah.
Go do what makes you happy.
I like that. And you know what? We see Brendan Shanahan get let go yesterday. Steve Yzerman struggling right now in Detroit, taking some heat, look uncomfortable in his press conference. I find the best GMs right now, not to say that former players can't be great GMs, but the best ones right now, you look at Bill Zito, you look at Julian Brisebois, you look at Doug Armstrong, you look at, Lou Lamoriello is a guy who's been around for a long time. A lot of these guys, man, who didn't play.
And Andy and ebbs and flows.
Okay, well, I'm just saying
at times, right now. And at times the best GMs were former players. At times they're not. It ebbs and flows.
Well, I'm just giving you the ebb and the flow right now. The current ebb and the flow.
Okay.
So
who else is good?
As a general manager?
Yeah.
Well, Jim Nill's very good.
Oh, did he play?
But a lot of guys played. They may not have been superstars.
Hold on. But you said played.
Yeah, but I also have said this before, and I've said they played but didn't have superstar careers. Like Don Waddell played, wasn't a superstar, and he kind of built that thing that we're seeing right now in Carolina. A lot of guys, Brad Treliving kind of inherited a situation there in Toronto. It's kind of hard to judge him fully. Hard to judge. Stan Bowman in Edmonton inherited that situation.
Yeah. Oh, how about Winnipeg?
He's done a great job.
Oh, what did he do?
Kevin Shoveldayoff.
Oh, did he play?
I think he had a short career.
Did he play?
I think he might have, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. I'm just trying to explain to you whether you played, didn't play.
Yeah.
It's not on, oh my God, you played, you're going to be a terrible GM. Oh my God, you didn't play, you're going to be a terrible GM. The narrative that people, and I'm going to use you in the media, the narrative that people in the media use is painful. Because now you're segmenting somebody based on whether they played or didn't play. Well, why don't we segment it on how old they are? It used to be, well, you're too young, you don't have enough experience. Now you're giving a GM job to 28-year-olds. Well, they have no experience, but they're analytics guys.
Well, he hasn't done a good job either, but Kyle Dubas. He hasn't.
But I'm just saying, like, you can't go from one polar opposite to the other and say it's okay, it's not okay, and bounce around and then say, oh, well, but the guy played or didn't play, so he's good or not. There's plenty of guys that played that were good, plenty of guys that played that were bad. There's plenty of guys that didn't play that were really good, and plenty of guys that didn't play that were bad.
And I can't make a blanket statement on that. I'm just saying.
Okay, here, let me
that it's
this.
not a guarantee.
How does Chuck Fletcher do? How'd Chuck Fletcher do?
Well, he had a long career, so it depends on which.
How did Chuck Fletcher do? I'm just waiting.
In Toronto, he was not great.
Oh, pardon me. Sorry. No.
Are you talking about
That's
Pittsburgh?
Cliff.
Oh,
that's
his son. Yeah,
Chuck
didn't have a great run either.
Okay, did he play?
I don't even think he did. Did he play?
I'm waiting.
Did he? No, he didn't play. Okay, I didn't think.
No, he did not. But I'm waiting. So again, to your narrative. See, we could go through this all day long, and I could defend or deny all kinds of. it doesn't matter if you played, didn't play. It's your ideology. It's what you see in players.
Mhm.
It's the culture that you create, the winning traditions that form from that. That's all that really matters.
Yep.
We could sit here and argue about Julian Brisebois. I could say, but Steve Yzerman handed the team over to him,
Okay. And
everything was in place.
And Pat Verbeek may have a great run, and Alexander Steen may be a great general manager.
And,
you
and
know,
by the way, it also goes to, well, Jeff Vinnick was a great owner
Mhm.
and allowed Steve Yzerman to do this, and then he allowed Julian Brisebois to do that. I mean, we can start breaking these things down into 17 different things.
Well, the owner in Florida is pretty good, as you know, too, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's allowing him to put a lot of this into place. He's allowing him, for a long time, it was a budget team.
Mhm.
That's the other thing. It was a budget team for a long time. Well, they weren't spending the dollars that it takes to get these top players.
Mm-hmm. It's just I'm just saying it's not a guarantee. I think you have to evaluate great players when they become executives in a different way than just as you did as a player. It's not an automatic.
You have to, first off, you have to evaluate whether they're a great player, a good player, didn't play,
Right.
they're a lawyer, agent. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
What you did before doesn't matter. It's what you're doing now.
That's what I'm saying.
Correct. And looking back on, was this guy, or this guy's a Hall of Famer, or this guy was a janitor, a shoe salesman, who cares? Do they know what they're doing? And how are you going to know? You're not going to know until you go through a 3, 4, 5-year window.
At least.
But the narrative of this guy's good because he knows analytics, this guy's good because he played before, this guy's good.
No.
It doesn't make sense.
No.
So
I'm with you. Because the GM in Colorado didn't play either. Although Sagan was there.
Right there with him. I mean, it's...
And he won a cup as a GM.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he was a great player. Former teammate of yours. And in international competition. Are you claiming Canada today after they lose to Denmark? Or, geez.
That was I didn't see the game, but it looked...
Dumb question, but did you ever play in the World Championships? You were in the playoffs every year.
I did. That thing called the Triple Gold Club. One of the pillars is a World Championship gold medal.
I know that, but I didn't know if...
1997 I played.
Okay, because I didn't know if it could...
So we lost to... Here in St. Louis, we lost to Detroit, I believe. Well, we played them 4 years in a row, so we lost to Detroit. And then I went over there right as it was about to start. They had played a bunch of exhibition games in the lead up, and then I got there right as the tournament was starting.
I thought triple gold could be World Junior, Olympic, and Stanley Cup as well.
It's a world champ. They don't count the World Junior.
Okay.
It's a world championship. It's an Olympic gold medal, and it's a Stanley Cup.
Okay. I just wonder.
I don't know how they came up with that, but
triple gold.
There's only.
What do you get for that? Do they give you something for that?
I got a handshake.
You didn't get a plaque or a medal? A ring?
No ring. What did I get? It was in Vancouver. I went and saw Denisov and Larionov and some guys that. I'm trying to think here. There's only 30 guys. And I may have gotten a jersey or a book. I don't know. Something.
Yeah. Well, you remember it very well, so it must have been
very vivid memory.
Must have been important. I may find something to give you guys, You
should.
Something that maybe have a suit made for you guys or something like that. Triple gold.
Maybe something that says hockey sense.
I love it. Prongs, we'll do this again, man. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, man.
Okay. We'll talk soon.
Yes, sir.
Adios. That's Chris Pronger, one of my favorites, joining us here on Hockey Sense. Always appreciate it. We got to get out of here. We have overstayed our welcome. Of course, First Community. We would not be here without our friends over at First Community. And I tell you about the Little Blues program and the Vacation Club account. Call First Community today and let them help you save money, help you live a better life, better quality of life, and Also, get your son or daughter introduced to the game of hockey and fall in love with the game of hockey with the Little Blues program. Of course, Lordo's Diamonds. Check it out, lordosdiamonds.com, right there in the heart of Ladue, right next to Truffles. Can't miss it, 314-432-8008. Blue Note Roofing, call David Novak today. If you were affected by the storm, we're thinking of all of you. 314-920-5713. 314-920-5713. Dirt Cheap Fun, your one-stop party shop. We had Sandy Meyer on from Apple Vacations. Always remember travelhouse.com, as we love our friends over there at Travel House. There is so much options to explore right now in terms of where you want to take your vacation. In fact, next week I'm going to go on vacation. Looking forward to that. Thanks to our friends over there at Travel House. Give them a call today, 314-842-6000, travelhouse.com. Award-winning travel agency focusing on the client experience. That's what you want. Almost 40 years in business for Travel House. Haus. Ask about their nonstop flights to Cancun through Apple Vacations. We got to get out of here. For Jamal Mayers and Chris Pronger, for Sandy Meyer from Apple Vacations, for Aiden and everybody else here at at Half Coast Studios, I'm Andy Strickland, reminding you to keep your head up and your stick on the ice. We'll do it again next Friday and all year long here on Hockey Sense. Have a great weekend, everybody.